Introduction. The Psychology of Money is not just another financial book. It's a deep dive into how our minds shape the way we spend, save, and invest. Ever wondered why some people live paycheck to paycheck, while others seem to always be ahead? It's not about intelligence or luck. It's about how we think, how we act, and how we feel about money. In this book, Morgan Housel reveals the hidden truths about money that most of us never even consider. Is saving really smart, or is it just fear? Is spending a joy, or a trap? These are questions that can change the way you look at your wallet forever. By the end of this book, you'll see money not as a numbers game, but as a game of psychology. Want to know why some people become wealthy while others stay broke? Want to know the mindset that could change your financial future? Stay with us to unlock the secret of wealth that no one's talking about. Your financial future starts right now. Chapter 1. No one's crazy. Have you ever looked at someone's financial decision and thought, why would they do that? That's so stupid. Maybe someone refuses to invest at all, while another throws money into risky crypto coins. One person saves every rupee like it's gold, and another spends without a second thought. At first glance, it's easy to assume one of them must be wrong, maybe even crazy. But this chapter challenges that idea in a powerful way. It starts by showing us that people don't make money decisions in a vacuum. Every person's financial choices are deeply shaped by the life they've lived, the time and place they were born in, the economy they grew up with, and the situations their families went through. That means two people can look at the exact same financial opportunity and see completely different things. One might see safety, the other might see danger. For example, someone who grew up in a poor household or saw their parents struggle financially may be very cautious. They might avoid loans, fear investments, and focus heavily on saving. But someone else, raised in a time of prosperity where things mostly worked out, might be more confident with risk. They'll invest, try new ventures, and believe things will improve. Neither person is wrong. They're both acting based on what their life has taught them. The important message here is that what seems irrational to you might actually be completely reasonable to someone else. Judging their decision without knowing their story is unfair, and honestly, it's a mistake we all make. This chapter teaches us to be more thoughtful when it comes to money, not just in how we handle it, but in how we understand others. Everyone sees money through a personal lens. No one's truly crazy. They're just responding to the world they grew up in, and this is just the beginning. The book will keep digging into how emotions, experiences, and behavior affect our relationship with money, far more than logic ever could. Chapter 2. Luck and Risk. Have you ever heard a success story that made you think, wow, this person is a genius? Maybe it's a billionaire entrepreneur, a smart investor, or someone who made it big against all odds. We love stories like that. They inspire us. They make us believe that if we work hard and play smart, we can get there too. But this chapter asks a deeper question. What if that success wasn't just about talent or effort? What if luck played a bigger role than we usually admit? It introduces the idea that in every financial story, whether it's a huge success or a total failure, luck and risk are both quietly working in the background. We often praise people for their wins and blame others for their losses, but we rarely stop to ask, what part of this was beyond their control? To explain this, the chapter gives powerful examples. One of them is Bill Gates. He's brilliant, yes, But what if he hadn't gone to one of the only high schools in the country with a computer at the time? What if his friend, who had the same skills, had made different life choices or had different circumstances? Sometimes, success comes from a mix of effort and rare chances lining up perfectly. On the flip side, someone might make all the right choices and still lose. They could start a good business but face a recession. They might invest wisely but get hit by bad timing. That's risk, unseen forces that can ruin even smart decisions. The chapter doesn't say effort doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But it warns us not to become overconfident or overly judgmental, because results can lie. Just because someone did well doesn't mean they had a perfect strategy. And just because someone failed doesn't mean they were careless. The lesson here is to stay humble. When you succeed, don't assume it was all you're doing. And when you see someone else struggling, don't assume they made dumb choices. Life, especially when it comes to money, is never that simple. So as you make your own financial choices, keep two words in mind: luck and risk. They're always there, even if we can't see them. Chapter 3. Never enough. Why do some people, even after becoming rich beyond imagination, still take crazy risks just to earn more? What drives a millionaire to want to become a billionaire, and a billionaire to risk everything for just a little more? This chapter begins by exploring a strange truth. Sometimes, having enough is not enough for people. No matter how much money they make, it doesn't feel like it's ever complete. There's always someone richer, something more luxurious to buy, some new status to chase. And that desire, to keep reaching higher without stopping to ask why, can lead to disaster. One example is the story of a wealthy man who had everything anyone could dream of: yachts, jets, properties, but still got caught in fraud and lost it all. Why? Because he wanted more. Not because he needed it, but because he didn't know how to stop. The chapter also compares that kind of behavior with people who had much less, but still lived fulfilled and peaceful lives. There's a powerful line here. There is no reason to risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. In other words, chasing more isn't always smart. It can be dangerous, especially if it makes you lose what truly matters. This doesn't mean ambition is bad. It's okay to work hard and grow. But the chapter is asking us to define our personal version of enough. When do you stop? When do you say, "I'm good now"? Because if you never ask that, you might keep running until you run off a cliff. The key takeaway isn't just about greed. It's about awareness, knowing your limits, respecting what you already have, and understanding that happiness doesn't always grow with your bank balance. So before you risk your time, energy, reputation, or peace of mind to chase more, ask yourself, do I already have enough? Chapter 4. Confounding Compounding. What if I told you that one of the greatest secrets to building wealth isn't about being super smart or making the perfect investments? It's about patience. This chapter opens by talking about someone almost everyone knows: Warren Buffett. People call him a genius investor, and sure, he is smart. But the real reason he's so wealthy? It's because he started investing when he was a child, and never stopped. His wealth didn't come from rare, magical stock picks. It came from compounding, and more importantly, letting compounding work over a long time. Think of compounding like this. It's when your money earns returns, and then those returns start earning returns, and so on. At first it looks slow, almost boring, but give it years, decades even, and it turns explosive. That's the part most people underestimate. The problem is, we're wired for short-term thinking. We want fast results. We get impatient if we don't see quick growth. But compounding doesn't work like that. It needs time, and it rewards consistency, not brilliance. This chapter really drives home the idea that doing pretty good for a long time is way more powerful than doing amazing for a short time. You don't have to be the smartest investor. You don't have to make perfect decisions. You just have to stick with it and give your investments time to grow. But here's the catch. People often ruin their chances by quitting too soon, trying to outsmart the system, or chasing quick wins. They interrupt the compounding process before it has a chance to show its magic. So the lesson is simple, but huge. The most powerful force in building wealth isn't a secret strategy. It's time and patience. Start early if you can. Stay consistent. And don't underestimate the quiet, steady power of small gains repeated over years. Because the real magic? It happens slowly, then all at once. Chapter 5. Getting wealthy versus staying wealthy. It's one thing to make money. It's another thing to keep it. This chapter opens with a powerful truth. Building wealth and keeping wealth require two very different mindsets. Most people focus only on how to get rich. Hustle, invest, grow, take risks. But very few think about how to stay rich once they get there. To get wealthy, you usually need to take bold steps. You need confidence, even some risk-taking. But to stay wealthy? That takes humility. It takes fear, not panic, but a healthy awareness that things can go wrong. It requires you to respect luck, recognize uncertainty, and protect what you've already built. The chapter shares the idea that survival is the foundation of long-term success. It's not about hitting home runs every time. It's about staying in the game. People who preserve their wealth are those who plan for the unknown, stay careful even when things look great, and avoid the urge to always go big. Many stories of financial failure don't come from people who never made money. They come from people who made a lot and then lost it. Why? Because they forgot that staying rich requires a different kind of discipline. They got overconfident, took on too much risk, or assumed the good times would never end. One of the strongest lessons in this chapter is this. You don't need to be right all the time. You just need to survive long enough for your good decisions to pay off. That's where real wealth comes from. Not just making money, but making sure you don't lose it all. So yes, get wealthy, be bold, be smart. But when you've built something valuable, shift gears, stay humble, prepare for the worst, even while hoping for the best. Because the ones who win in the long run aren't just the boldest. They're the ones still standing. Chapter 6. Tails, you win. This chapter introduces an idea that feels a bit strange at first. In both life and investing, a small number of actions, called tail events, are often responsible for most of the success. That means one or two big decisions, or a handful of moments, can have a huge impact, while everything else barely moves the needle. Let's break it down. Imagine someone makes 100 investments. Most of them might break even. Some might even lose money. But just a few, maybe 3 or 4, turn out to be huge winners. Those few investments are what make the entire portfolio a success. That's a tail event, something rare, unexpected, but incredibly powerful. The same is true in life. Think about your biggest opportunities, relationships, or turning points. Chances are, only a small handful of moments truly changed everything. That's how success often works. Not evenly, but heavily concentrated in just a few big outcomes. The problem is, most people expect consistent results. They get discouraged when every step doesn't lead to something big. They might give up because most things seem to fail. But this chapter reminds us, that's normal. The key is to stay in the game long enough to catch those rare winners. You don't need everything to go right. Just a few things to go really right. There's also a message here about patience and resilience. You'll face a lot of small setbacks, but you need to stay open to big possibilities. Don't be discouraged by the boring or the slow. Sometimes the next tail event is right around the corner, and it can change everything. So whether you're investing, building a career, or just living life, don't aim for every step to be a jackpot. Aim to stick around long enough to find the few that truly are. Because when they happen, tails win. Chapter 7. Freedom. Ask people what they really want out of life, and you'll hear answers like money, success, comfort, or respect. But if you dig a little deeper, you'll realize something surprising. What most people actually want is control over their time. This chapter reveals a simple but powerful truth. The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up and say, I can do whatever I want today. That's freedom. Not just financial freedom, but emotional and personal freedom too. It tells us that many people chase money because they think it will buy happiness. But what money really offers, when used wisely, is independence. The ability to make your own choices, to not be forced into things you hate, to say no without fear, and yes when it matters most. Think about it. If someone earns a huge salary but is stuck in a job they can't stand, under people they don't like, with no control over their time, is that real wealth? On the other hand, someone who earns modestly but has the freedom to spend their days doing what they love, on their own schedule, may be far richer in terms of life satisfaction. The chapter encourages us to rethink our definition of success. It's not about how much you have, it's about how much agency you have over your life. Can you take a day off when you need to? Can you spend time with family, or focus on what truly matters to you, without asking permission? One of the most overlooked luxuries in the world is a flexible schedule. It may not look impressive on paper, but in real life, it changes everything. So instead of chasing money for status or comparison, this chapter asks, what if you focused on using money to buy freedom? Because that, in the end, might be the most valuable thing money can ever give you. Chapter 8. Man in the Car Paradox. Picture this. A sleek, shiny sports car pulls up next to you. Your first thought might be, wow, that car is amazing. You might even admire the lifestyle it represents. But here's the twist. You're not thinking, that driver must be so cool. You're actually imagining yourself in the car. This chapter explains a strange human behavior. We often buy expensive things, cars, clothes, watches, not just for our own enjoyment, but to make others admire us. We believe people will look at our stuff and think we are impressive. But in reality, most people don't care about the owner. They're too busy imagining how they would look if they had the same thing. It's an uncomfortable truth, but a powerful one. No one is as impressed with your possessions as you are. The chapter goes deeper into this idea by showing how people often spend money to gain respect, status, or recognition. But real respect doesn't come from showing off wealth. It comes from how you treat others, how you carry yourself, and how trustworthy you are. And here's the irony. Trying too hard to look impressive can often have the opposite effect. It can make people see you as insecure or self-centered, not admirable. That doesn't mean you shouldn't buy nice things. It means you should know why you're buying them. If it's truly for your own joy and comfort, go ahead. But if it's to impress others, just remember, they're probably not thinking what you think they are. The big idea? The best kind of respect isn't something you can buy. It's something you earn, quietly, through character, not cars. Chapter 9. Wealth is what you don't see. We often think someone is rich because we see them driving a luxury car, living in a massive house, or wearing designer clothes. But this chapter flips that idea on its head and offers a powerful truth. Wealth isn't what you see. Wealth is what you don't see. Let that sink in. When someone buys an expensive car, what you're actually seeing is money that has been spent, not money that's still available. True wealth is hidden. It's the money that's saved, invested, or left untouched. It's the money that gives a person options, security, and freedom, not necessarily attention. Here's the thing. We're trained to admire what's visible. We assume the person with the biggest house is also the wealthiest. But often, that house came at the cost of savings. Many people look rich, but are actually just living paycheck to paycheck, using debt or dipping into everything they earn to maintain the image. This chapter asks us to shift our focus. Instead of chasing looking rich, aim to be rich, quietly, invisibly. Because real wealth is boring. It doesn't shout. It doesn't sparkle. It sits silently in your investment account, growing, while the world sees nothing at all. And here's the ironic part. The more someone spends to show they're rich, the less actual wealth they might have. If you want to build something lasting, focus less on impressing others and more on creating a life that feels good on the inside, even if it doesn't always look flashy on the outside. So the next time you're tempted to measure success by what someone shows, remember, real wealth is hidden, and that's exactly what makes it powerful. Chapter 10. Save money. When people think about becoming wealthy, they usually picture big things: high salaries, smart investments, owning businesses. But this chapter says something much simpler, something most people overlook. If you want to build wealth, learn to save. It sounds obvious, right? But saving money isn't just about discipline or cutting back. It's about freedom. It's about giving your future self options. The chapter explains that saving money doesn't always need a reason. You don't have to say, "I'm saving for a house," or "I'm saving for retirement." You can just save for the unknown, because life is full of surprises, job losses, emergencies, opportunities, and savings act like a buffer between you and panic. Most people assume you need to earn more in order to save more. But here's a better mindset. You need to spend less than you earn. That's it. Even if you never get a huge paycheck, you can still build serious wealth just by consistently saving a portion of what you earn. This chapter also challenges the idea that you need to be a financial genius to grow your money. The truth is, high income doesn't guarantee wealth, and wealth doesn't require brilliance. What it does require is the ability to say, "I don't need to spend everything I have." Saving is about control. It's about patience. And most importantly, it's about respecting the future more than impressing the present. So while the world tells you to chase status or invest like a genius, this chapter gently reminds you, start by saving, quietly, consistently, without needing to show it off, because savings, more than anything else, are what create the space for peace, power, and possibility in your life. Chapter 11. Reasonable is greater than rational. When it comes to money, we're often told to be rational. Make decisions based on math. Follow logic. Do what the spreadsheets say. But this chapter offers a deeper insight. You don't need to be perfectly rational. You just need to be reasonable. Why? Because we're not robots. We're human. And humans have feelings, habits, fears, hopes, and memories. So if we try to make every decision based only on numbers, we're ignoring the very real emotions that drive us. Take investing, for example. A purely rational person might say, put every dollar in the investment with the highest return. But a reasonable person might say, I want to sleep well at night. I want to feel safe. I'm okay earning a little less if it means less stress. That's not a mistake. That's wisdom. This chapter teaches us that personal finance is called personal for a reason. What works for someone else might not work for you. Maybe someone else is comfortable taking big risks, but you're not. That's fine. Maybe the math says to keep your mortgage low, but your heart says, I like being debt-free. That's valid. The key is to find a balance between logic and lifestyle, between what looks good on paper and what feels right in real life. Being reasonable means choosing a path you can stick to. It means creating a plan that fits your personality, not just your bank account. Because in the long run, the best financial strategy is the one you can live with, not the one that's perfect on paper. Chapter 12. Surprise. We like to think the world is predictable, that if we study the past carefully, we can understand how the future will unfold. But this chapter offers a humbling reminder. The biggest events in history and in our lives are often complete surprises. Think about it. Stock market crashes, pandemics, wars, inventions like the internet or smartphones. Almost no one saw them coming. And yet, they changed everything. These rare, unexpected events, good or bad, shape the world far more than the ordinary day-to-day stuff. This chapter teaches us that when it comes to money and life, we have to make room for the unexpected. We won't always be able to predict what's next. In fact, we usually won't. That doesn't mean you shouldn't plan, but it does mean you should plan with flexibility. Build in space for shocks. Don't assume the future will be a straight line just because the past looks neat in hindsight. It also tells us to be cautious when studying history. The past can teach us a lot, yes, but it often hides the role of randomness, luck, and surprise. We look back and think things were more certain than they really were. But in the moment, they were confusing, messy, and unpredictable, just like today. So what can we do? Stay humble. Stay prepared. Understand that surprises will always be part of the journey. And instead of trying to predict them, focus on building a financial life that's resilient enough to survive them. Because in the real world, it's not the most detailed plan that wins. It's the plan that bends, adapts, and keeps going, even when the unexpected shows up. Chapter 13. Room for error. When we make plans, especially financial ones, we often imagine everything going just right. We assume steady income, consistent returns, and smooth sailing. But this chapter gives us a wiser, more realistic view. If you want to survive long-term, always leave room for error. Things go wrong. Unexpected expenses pop up. Markets dip, plans change. Life throws curveballs when you least expect it. That's not pessimism. It's just reality. And the smartest people aren't the ones who make perfect predictions. They're the ones who build space into their lives for when predictions go wrong. Think of room for error like a cushion, a buffer. It's not a waste. It's protection. The chapter shares that people often fail not because they were completely wrong, but because they were just slightly off and left no space to absorb the shock. One misstep was all it took. That's why having some cash saved, living below your means, and not stretching yourself too thin matters so much. It's not about being scared. It's about being prepared. And here's the deeper message. Success doesn't require taking huge risks. It often just requires avoiding failure. You don't need to hit home runs all the time. You just need to stay in the game long enough for compounding to do its work. Room for error isn't about being weak. It's about being wise. It's saying, I don't know exactly what's coming, but I want to be ready anyway. Because in money and in life, it's not the boldest who last the longest. It's the ones who leave space to breathe, recover, and adapt. Chapter 14. You'll change. Think back to who you were 5 or 10 years ago, what you wanted, what mattered to you, what you believed was important. Chances are, a lot of it has changed. Now here's the catch. The same thing will happen to your future self. This chapter is about how we, as people, are constantly changing. But we often forget that while making big decisions, especially with money, when we make long-term plans, we do so with the assumption that our goals, values, and preferences will stay the same. But the truth is, they won't. What you want today might feel irrelevant or even silly 10 years from now. This is called the end of history illusion, the belief that while we've changed a lot in the past, we won't change much in the future. But we will. And if we don't account for that, we risk locking ourselves into goals or lifestyles that no longer fit who we become. So what's the answer? Be flexible. Leave space in your plans for your future self to shift gears. Don't commit so tightly to one vision of success that you can't change course later. Because real freedom is being able to adapt when your priorities evolve. This chapter encourages us to avoid financial decisions that trap us. Instead, make choices that give you room to adjust, whether it's choosing a mortgage, a job, or an investment plan. Give your future self options. Because in the end, the best kind of success is one that still feels right as you change. Chapter 15. Nothing's free. We're taught to chase rewards, higher returns, bigger gains, more money. But this chapter offers a reality check. Every reward in life has a price, and nothing is truly free. Now here's the twist. Most of the time, that price isn't obvious. It's not something you pay at a counter. Instead, it comes in the form of stress, uncertainty, doubt, or time. Want high investment returns? The price might be watching your portfolio drop sometimes and staying calm when it does. Want to build wealth? The cost might be giving up some short-term pleasures, like buying the newest stuff, so you can save or invest. Even peace of mind has a price. It may cost you some potential gains because you chose a safer path. But if it helps you sleep at night, maybe that's worth it. The problem is, Shadim, we often want rewards without paying the price. We want gains without risk, growth without patience, success without setbacks. But life doesn't work that way. Every path has a toll. The key is to know what you're really paying and decide if it's worth it. This chapter gently reminds us, don't try to avoid all discomfort. Instead, choose your discomfort wisely. The best outcomes often come from enduring the right kind of pain, voluntarily, knowingly, and with a purpose. Because once you understand the true cost of success, you stop asking, how can I get this for free? and start asking, am I willing to pay the price for what I truly want? Chapter 16. You and Me. In the world of finance, we often assume that the information we see, market news, investment tips, stock advice, is useful for everyone in the same way. But this chapter quietly delivers a powerful truth. Everyone is playing a different game. And when you make decisions based on someone else's game, you risk losing your own. Think about it like this. One person is a day trader, moving in and out of positions within hours. Another is a long-term investor saving for retirement. Someone is building wealth slowly over decades, while another is trying to recover from a financial setback quickly. Their choices might look similar, buying or selling the same stocks, reacting to the same news, but their intentions, pressures, and time horizons are completely different. And yet, we often feel influenced by what others are doing. We see someone investing aggressively and think, maybe I should do that too. We hear someone making fast money and feel like we're falling behind. But maybe we're not even playing the same game. That's the lesson here. Your financial decisions should match your life, not someone else's timeline or goals. This chapter warns us how easy it is to misinterpret financial advice or market behavior, especially when it's coming from people who live in a different reality. Social media, news, and online platforms blur the lines. Everyone sees the same headlines, but not everyone has the same purpose. So before you copy someone's financial move, ask yourself, is this advice meant for someone like me? Do they have the same responsibilities, goals, or time frame as I do? And most importantly, what game am I playing? Once you understand that clearly, everything shifts. You stop feeling FOMO. You stop comparing. You focus on your own path, with clarity and peace. Because the truth is, success in finance isn't about doing what others do. It's about knowing yourself and playing your own game wisely. Chapter 17. The Seduction of Pessimism. There's something strange about how we react to good news and bad news. When someone tells us things are going to get better, we're often skeptical. But when someone says disaster is coming, we take it seriously. Why is that? This chapter explores a simple truth. Pessimism sounds smart. Optimism sounds naive. But long-term progress is almost always driven by optimism. The reason pessimism feels more believable is because bad things tend to happen fast and loud. Markets crash overnight. Companies go bankrupt suddenly. Pandemics spread in weeks. It's easy to see loss and pain, and it hits hard. Progress, on the other hand, is slow. Technology improves bit by bit. Wealth builds over decades. Cures, inventions, and solutions take time. So when someone says, everything is going to fall apart, it sounds like they know something serious. But when someone says, things will work out, we brush it off as hopefulness or blind faith. The chapter warns us not to get trapped by this mindset. Yes, bad things happen. But in the bigger picture, human history shows consistent progress. We adapt, we grow, we rebuild, over and over again. And when it comes to investing and money, you have to believe in that long-term progress, even if short-term news is filled with fear. This doesn't mean ignore risks. It means balance your awareness of danger with faith in recovery. Because the world moves forward not through fear, but through people who dare to build, invest, create, and believe in better days. So the next time pessimism sounds seductive, remember, optimism may be quieter, but it's far more powerful over time. Chapter 18. When you'll believe anything. Money is deeply emotional. It doesn't just involve logic or numbers. It touches on our hopes, fears, and the stories we tell ourselves about success and failure. And when things go wrong, when markets crash, when savings disappear, or when plans fall apart, people don't always look for the most rational explanation. They look for comfort. This chapter explores how, in moments of fear or uncertainty, we become vulnerable to believing almost anything, especially if it offers hope, reassurance, or someone to blame. During financial crises or economic downturns, people often want quick answers. They want a reason for the chaos, something that makes sense of the pain. But the truth is, sometimes things just go wrong without a neat explanation. And when that happens, people tend to grab on to whatever feels emotionally satisfying, even if it's not true. That's why financial disasters are often followed by a rise in conspiracy theories, bold predictions, or blaming systems, governments, or secret groups. It feels easier to believe in a big, bad villain than to accept that the world is unpredictable and imperfect. The chapter points out that the more desperate or confused we feel, the more likely we are to believe in comforting illusions. This isn't a flaw, it's human nature. But it's also dangerous, especially when it leads us away from reality. If you lose money on an investment, for example, it's easier to believe that the system is rigged or that you were tricked, rather than facing the possibility that you took a risky bet or were simply unlucky. Believing the wrong story might protect your ego for a while, but it won't help you learn or improve. That's why this chapter encourages awareness. It's okay to feel afraid or uncertain, but don't let that push you into false narratives. Instead, slow down. Ask yourself, am I looking for the truth, or just trying to feel better? Because the real strength in money and in life comes from the ability to stay honest with yourself, even in uncomfortable moments. Clear thinking is rare under pressure, but it's what leads to better choices and lasting growth. Chapter 19. The Role of Luck. We often believe that our success and failures are solely the result of our hard work and decisions. However, this chapter highlights the significant role that luck and uncontrollable factors play in shaping our lives. Luck isn't just about good or bad fortune. It's about the unexpected opportunities and circumstances that come our way, and many of these are beyond our control. The chapter discusses how, in life, thousands of people put in similar levels of effort, but only a few are in the right place at the right time, or happen to have the right connections or opportunities. These lucky breaks can often be the deciding factor in success, while hard work alone isn't always enough. Think of famous entrepreneurs who became successful due to a particular event or breakthrough that was out of their control. It's not that they didn't work hard, but they also benefited from situations they couldn't have planned for. Luck, or timing, played a huge part. This chapter encourages us to be aware of the role luck plays. It doesn't mean we should stop working hard or trying to improve our situation, but it asks us to accept that some things are outside of our control. Life often gives us opportunities that we cannot predict or plan for, and these can significantly influence our journey. By acknowledging the role of luck, we can be less frustrated when things don't go according to plan and be more open to the unexpected turns life might offer. It helps to find balance, continue to work hard, but also understand that sometimes success isn't only about effort. It's also about being in the right place at the right time. Conclusion. Wealth is more than just numbers. It's a journey of thoughtful decision-making, patience, and embracing life's unpredictable nature. By learning to balance risk with the understanding that luck plays a role, we pave the way for true growth and fulfillment. This journey is not just about accumulating wealth, but about making steady, mindful choices that lead to lasting success and personal well-being. Thank you for being on this journey. Best wishes for continued success and prosperity.